everyone, and welcome to WSI's Digital Insider podcast series, where in each episode we'll be interviewing a top influencer in the digital marketing space to help all of you stay up to date on the latest trends and tactics. My name is Leanna San Pedro. I'm a member of WSI's corporate team in Toronto, Canada, which is home to my beloved Toronto Blue Jays. I also happen to be your host today. In this episode, we'll be taking a slightly different spin than usual. Our guest speaker is Ms. Tammara Kennelly, who is president of FriesenPress, the award-winning North American publishing company. Her expertise from the publishing realm, paired with the demands of today's digital world, lends a unique outlook into content and the power it holds in earning a loyal following for any brand. With her vast experience in helping authors and businesses establish their authority across a variety of industries, we're very excited to get Tammara's thoughts on the intersection of publishing and digital. So sit back, grab a drink, preferably a Malbec since I hear that's one of Tammara's favorites, and enjoy the session. Tammara, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Leanna.
Now, at first glance, WSI and FriesenPress come from two very different worlds. And, we are in the business of digital marketing, and your team is in the corner of traditional publications. And the place where we collide is our mutual love of great content. So whether it's in the form of a book, a blog post, an ebook, or, a white paper, what role do you think content plays in building the kind of brand loyalty that every business aims for?
That's a great question, Leanna. Thanks for asking. I think it's really important to understand that content marketing really is how you build brand loyalty nowadays. I think, businesses fail to really put a plan around their content marketing. And so it's important for a business to step back and say, who is my customer? Start by building out that customer persona and understand the different groups that you're speaking to. And as you understand that persona, you're able to build your content marketing strategy, ensuring that you're following those 4 C's, which are to consistently create compelling content for them. So it's not as important to put a volume of content out there as it is to put out good quality content that's easily absorbed by your client. I think it's important, though, as well, as you put out that content, to make sure that you're measuring your efforts. So putting out good, relevant content is important. Putting it out in channels where you know your customers will be looking for it is also very important. But then measuring that effort at the end of the day to make sure that your time that you're investing is well spent. So when you're looking at content marketing and whether or not your efforts are effective, it's looking at things like, are you getting views and downloads and shares of your content? Are there online conversations developing around the content that you've posted? What does your website traffic to that specific content look like? What's your social media reach? What are the attributed conversations occurring? What's the online and offline coverage look like? So I think it's important to measure your effort in addition to simply putting that content out there. And if you're doing a great job, your brand is being seen as a market leader, you're more credible, you're seen as intelligent, and you're seen as an influencer. And so I think nowadays content marketing is really important.
So in what ways does publishing a physical book lend authority to and credibility to a brand?
That's a great question. So, we talk a lot about the business as a book as a business card. And, I think it's important to understand that when you're building brand loyalty, the things that influence brand loyalty are, things like perceived trust, brand trust, the customer's satisfaction that drives repeat purchase behavior. And so, a book really does that. When you put a book out there, I think it positions you as somebody fairly unique. It says that you're dedicated and ambitious. I mean, we know you can't just write a book in an afternoon. You need to dedicate yourself to that effort. I think it says that you have a passion, not only for your vocation that you've chosen or the services that you're selling to your client, but you have a passion for your ideas. And I think that really is important. I think it says that you're intelligent. You can't really use the smoke and mirrors approach when you're putting a book out there. You really have to know your stuff, and you really have to position yourself as a thought leader. It says you're confident. You're confident to say, my book is worth reading. I have an idea that's worth you knowing about. And finally, there's still that prestige around writing a book. While self-publishing has certainly made publishing that much easier and more accessible to a number of people. For those that don't understand the self-publishing world, putting a book out there has a lot of prestige around it. So I think that, when you put a book out, you're really sending a strong message to your client.
So you brought up the topic of self-publishing. So for our audience out there, just so they know, once a book has been published, what else do they need to do in order to amplify its reach and maximize its effectiveness as an overall branding tool?
Leanna, that's a great question. And I always say to people that are looking to write a book and become an author, don't wait until the book has been published. Start early. I would start, most of your clients out there are already going to have a great social media following. You've got a great audience out there to leverage for all sorts of crowdsourced feedback. So I would say involve them in the writing process. Have them help you pick a title. Have them help you pick a cover. You can crowdsource their feedback with that first chapter to say, am I on the right track? And then, crowdsource them for some editing services. Not only are you getting benefit from that, but I think it's also having you be seen as somebody who is collaborative, who cares about what your audience wants, what they think, and it builds some momentum behind the book before it's even released. But I think that, the hard work begins once the book is released, and you do want to ensure that you're amplifying its reach. And so, I would start with, as you're talking to prospects and clients, make sure you're tying the ideas that you're presenting to them back to the book, whether it's in writing or verbally. Reinforce your message with the content in the book, not only as it relates to perhaps the services they're seeking out from you, but take it one step further and say, you've come to me for X, but, I would also recommend you look at Y and have a look at Chapter 9, which talks about Y, and start to build out a more robust engagement with that client by leveraging the book. And, we have to keep in mind that there's the printed book and there's the ebook, and ebooks don't have a cost associated with them. And so think about perhaps putting that book out there for free into all of your messaging. You're not really looking to generate revenue off the book. You're looking to generate brand loyalty. You're looking to generate additional business. And so don't be afraid to give that book away for free and publicize it far and wide, whether that be on your social media, at presentations and speaking engagements that you're doing, at networking events. Make sure you're talking about it everywhere you go. And I would also say that, with the printed book, make sure that you're using it as a leave behind. I know there's a cost associated with that book, but realize that there's also a return associated with that book. And, the beautiful thing about using a book as a business card is that while a business card is a one-to-one relationship and it generally hits the garbage, when you hand somebody your book and you say, here are my ideas, here is my book, this is my name, they're going to remember you. They're going to hang on to that book. The impact of that free book is going to be long-lasting, and now that book will travel, whether that's sitting on their nightstand and their partner talks to them about it, that book heads to work and sits on the corner of the desk, and a number of people will see it and talk about it. That book may be shared. It will travel into circles that you never would have even thought to network in. And so, there's really that compound effect of you've met one person, but really you're meeting hundreds of people with that physical book.
Well, you speak about that compound effect, and it's interesting. So, do you think a book actually differs from a piece of digital content, like a blog post or an ebook? And for that matter, does a physical book have a different audience?
Well, I think that there are different people that place value on a physical book versus an ebook. Digital content is certainly very easy to transport around and access in our busy lifestyles, but I think a physical book has a real impact on people, and it's really that first step towards forging that an offline, real world type of bond with your customer. I think it also, a physical book is long lasting. It's a physical thing that will sit on a shelf, sit on a desk, be carried around by somebody. So I think that there's more permanence associated with a physical book. And, it's interesting, in the last few days, there's been a lot of articles that speak to the stagnation of ebooks and, in fact, the decline of ebooks, and the fact that people are really moving backwards towards physical print again and really valuing that feeling of a book in their hand.
Now, what would you say to businesses or even individuals wondering whether or not they have enough content to publish a book?
I love that question, because I think it's really intimidating to think about not only writing, because many of us aren't writers, but now you're writing a book. It feels very heavy. And what I would say is we have to keep in mind that the reader's attention span is shrinking in this world. People don't want to read an epic novel. They don't want to read a Moby Dick when you're putting your ideas into a book. You may need to make sure that you keep your ideas really short and relevant in very small sound bites that are easily digested by the reader. So, sit down and talk about what you know to somebody, and you'll be amazed at how much you do know. So the real challenge isn't about, do I have enough information? I think for most people, it's how do I organize my information and write this? And there are so many great resources out there right now that will walk you through how to do that. Starting with that big mind map of ideas and taking that mind map and chunking it into headings that are chapters with ideas, and then saying to yourself, okay, now I have my chapter outline. I'm going to write 500 words a day, which is really an attainable goal. And within 2 or 3 months, you should have that book done quite easily, although most authors that are doing the book as a business card will find they have it done a lot sooner, because you want to keep it short. It doesn't, the average book is about 60,000 words, and that's a good sized book. You don't necessarily need to have a book that's that length. So chunk your goals down into daily sound bites, and you'll find that you have a book quite easily. Having said that, Leanna, I think there's also great value in looking for co-authors. So, the short story is very popular right now. We saw it really become popular with the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, where you see a number of contributors putting a book together. So if it feels intimidating for you to do an entire book, find like-minded individuals that have areas of expertise that are different than yours and collaborate with them to put together a book that's co-authored.
That was wonderful. Now, before we close off, do you have any final thoughts to share with our listeners?
I would say that if you're looking to build brand loyalty and create some content around that, self-publishing has become more accessible than ever. It's very simple to do. There are a lot of do-it-yourself routes. The cost can be very minimal, and I think you need to look at the cost of what it would be to put a book together as a part of your overall marketing strategy. I think you'll find it very affordable, and I think it really positions you as a market leader, because it's not something that many people are doing right now, and the ones that are doing it are finding great success.
Thank you so much, Tammara. That is all the time we have today, and I want to thank you on behalf of everybody online for joining us.
Thanks, Leanna.
Well, that concludes this month's episode in WSI's Digital Insider Series. Thanks again to Tammara for sharing some great insights into how content, no matter what channel it's shared through, has the capacity to promote brand loyalty. And of course, thanks to all of you for listening. I hope you found this session informative, and if you have any questions about what was discussed, be sure to get in touch with a WSI consultant in your region. This is Leanna San Pedro for WSI, signing off.